You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks so much for listening. Coming up, we'll get you all set for this week's AAC Championship game. Tulane hosting UCF. Corey Gloor, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave, will join us once again to preview that contest. He is standing by in the virtual green room and will join us in just a few moments. So here is how we got here. So, Tulane battled Cincinnati, the winner-take-all contest, in order to host the AAC Championship. The Green Wave come up with a 27-24 victory. And then UCF, they just had to win to get in to be the second-place team of the conference and to battle Tulane in New Orleans. The Knights blew a 28-0 lead. South Florida eventually took the lead, but UCF rallies at the end on an incredible catch by Alec Holler. 46-39, the Knights win to get into the championship contest. The other games from the final week of the season, East Carolina outscored Temple 49-46. SMU was a 3-point winner over Memphis 34-31, and Tulsa downed Houston by a 37-30 score. All right, now let's hear from both head coaches for this week's championship game. Here's Knights head coach Gus Malzahn.
First of all, we're honored to be in the championship game, playing Tulane at their place. They're a very, very impressive football team, offensively, defensively, special teams. Their head coach is one of the best, along with their staff. So it's going to be a good one. We're familiar with each other, obviously playing each other 3 weeks ago. So we're looking forward to playing.
And there is also mutual respect from Green Wave head coach Willie Fritz.
Well, we're very excited. I apologize. I just walked off the practice field just a couple moments ago, but we're really proud of the season that we've had so far. It's great to be able to host the game here in New Orleans. Obviously playing a fantastic opponent, and UCF. I've got a ton of respect for Coach Malzahn and what he's done every place he's been at. I've followed his career. He's kind of, a high school coach, and I'm kind of an old JUCO coach, and I think does it the right way, and I think there's a lot of core principles we both share as far as how you're supposed to run a program, play a game. But it's great for our student athletes to be involved in a game like this, and we're proud to be one of the representatives of the American in the conference championship ballgame.
In off-the-field news, Fritz was a candidate for the head coaching vacancy at Georgia Tech, but interim coach and former UCF assistant Brent Key was promoted to that post. The jolty news came in Cincinnati as Luke Fickell has left the Bearcats to take the head coaching position at Wisconsin. When we come back, we will preview the AAC Championship game with the voice of the Green Wave, Corey Gloor. That's next when the AAC Report continues.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chadbar Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chadbar Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
It is deja vu all over again as UCF and Tulane will once again battle in New Orleans. A few weeks ago, it was for first place in the conference. This time around, it is for all the marbles in the AAC Championship. And joining us once again to discuss that, we are pleased to welcome back Corey Gloor, the voice of the Green Wave. Corey, good to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me back. What new could we possibly discuss now? It's been 2.5 weeks since we did this.
Yeah, it wasn't that quite long ago, was it? So yeah. It's very interesting. So, football is such an intriguing sport where, it's so different from week to week. And I think the great Dallas Cowboys broadcaster Brad Sham came up with this great explanation. Last week hasn't met this week, and they're never going to meet. And so, what we will see this weekend versus what we saw a few weeks ago, give me your thoughts on, first, what does Tulane glean from that loss that they can use this time around? And two, do you put any credence into the revenge factor?
Well, I'll take the second one first. I think there's got to be a little bit involved, especially because it's been 3 weeks. Like, it hasn't been a full season that's played out since these two met. And UCF, with all due respect to Southern Miss, who is the only other team to grab a win over Tulane so far this year, UCF is the only one that has made Tulane look out of sorts. And so, yeah, I think that's an underlying element. It's not the driving factor for this one. It's pretty obvious what the driving factor is for this one here this week. But in terms of the first one, stop the quarterback run. That's a pretty obvious one. I mean, you can't let anyone, let alone maybe the fastest quarterback in the country, pick up 145 yards on the ground on you in the first quarter. And, it was the first time that Tulane was thrown a punch right off the bat in that game, and they responded okay, but they never got their feet back underneath them. And so, there's obviously questions about who will be the UCF quarterback this week. We had those same questions 3 weeks ago when we chatted about this matchup. But I mean, they got completely run over by John Rice Plumlee early on. They did better on him second quarter on. But then they couldn't stop Bowser late in the game, and Plumlee was doing just enough to, turn what should have been maybe a 3-yard gain to a 7-yard gain, and add in some uncharacteristic moments for Tulane where dropping passes. There are at least 7 drops by the receiving corps in that game, and penalties all over the place. And, 8 penalties, the most they've had in a game this year, and it's not even close. And so they walked out of that game knowing that they got punched. They couldn't really respond from it, but they also made mistakes in that game that it was a 7-point game when all was said and done. And if they hold on to half of those drops or they commit half of those penalties, then they might be winning that game still. So they came out of that game perturbed. And I think you saw the last 2 weeks and maybe as a result of that and what they did to SMU and then Cincinnati. But they also came out knowing that a lot of the stuff that they did against UCF back on the 12th was fixable. And so now we'll see if they can really get it mended second time around.
Yeah, it's interesting because, after that game, UCF's in the driver's seat, but then they fall for the banana in the tailpipe against Navy, which, set them back to potentially not even getting in. Yeah. And then, of course, you guys have you took your frustrations out on SMU for sure. And then, of course, the big matchup against Cincinnati to claim the right to host the championship game. Take me back to last week and the performance by the Green Wave. Certainly, taking out, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ, right?
Yeah. To go into there and to get that win, like Cincinnati throughout the year, and you saw them, and it's not like they were the same impenetrable bunch that they had been the previous 2 seasons. Like they were always kind of living on the edge, and they were doing just enough with that running game, with that defense to eke out close wins. But that's also kind of how Tulane has been winning this year. They lean on their defense. Their running game has been otherworldly here in the second half of the year, and they're getting, frankly, more from their quarterback spot than Cincinnati was getting this year. And so they weren't terribly fazed by the environment around that game, what was on the line for that game, the 32-game streak that Cincinnati had at home, that didn't really matter to them. That's been their team's deal all year long. It just, the outside stuff, the storylines hasn't quite mattered to them. And so they went out there, they played an impressively solid game. Like that's, I was talking to, there's a guy who works at Cincinnati now this year that was at Tulane last year. And I was catching up with him before the game. And he's like, I watch you guys on defense, and there's nothing you really do that's special. And like, you're right. They played just smart. Like that's what Tulane's defense is. They're a smart club. They know where they should be. The one team that they struggled with about where they should be was UCF. And so they were able to contain Evan Prater, who got the start in that game. He was getting some work done on the ground, but they really bottled him up throwing the ball. And Ryan Montgomery, Charles McClellan, they got a little bit on Tulane, but not enough. And then when Tulane let Tajay Spears run all over the place, and then when they needed Michael Pratt to make a couple of throws, he did with 4 minutes to go in the game. And so it was just an all-around, top-to-bottom, solid win. And that has been the calling card of this team this year. It's not one thing, it's a lot of things that gets things done. And so to do it there and to grab this game and have it at home, make no mistake, it's a massive milestone for this program. It's an unheard of milestone for this program. But it was business as usual there. And even the reaction after the game was, all right, let's go home and let's watch what happens tomorrow night and see what happens in Tampa. And if we need to look at what happens in Houston, we'll look at what happens in Houston. But they went in, they expected to win, they did. Like that it's been a scary, mature team this year.
And of course, you can't help but talk about the performance of Tajay Spears. And to me, no matter how much the rules are predicated for throwing the football, if you don't have a running game when it's championship time, you're not going to win. And his performance was epic with the 35 carries, 181 yards, and a couple of touchdowns.
It shouldn't be a shock to anyone, and certainly you there, Jeff, that the two teams playing for the title have very good running games. Like and the other team vying for it in Cincinnati has a very good running game. Like as much as we look at what quarterbacks are doing around college football, if you don't have the proper balance, then you're not going to be contending for a conference. And so Tajay Spears played every snap against Cincinnati. He carried the ball 35 times. Tulane usually rolls with 3 running backs when they're all healthy, and they have been healthy the last couple of weeks. Not Friday. Tajay Spears was carrying the ball every single time, and every single time he got it, he was always making the first guy miss. The cuts, the moves, the sliding off of tackles. There was a severe refusal to go down. That is, well, it's NFL caliber. And, he started off this year as, probably the best player on this roster. And now he's going to leave it as one of the best running backs to ever play here. And should be playing on Sundays next year. And his jump is the biggest reason why we're talking about another game here. He is something else. And I talked to him after the game for the post-game show for our broadcast, and he told me right away before he started recording, don't tell me my numbers. I don't want to know what I did today. And so I didn't. And then he went and he did media after my chat with him, and Coach Fritz was raving about him and sitting right next to him. And what Tajay did was he covered up his ears because he didn't want to hear it. Like he doesn't know how to handle compliments well, and but he is frighteningly humble for a kid who's this talented and should be making money doing this in the near future. And for him to rattle off game after game after game like this, it's not new for us to see, but he's done it 6 weeks in a row now, including against UCF. So we knew he was good. The fact that he has become this special, and it would be my pick for offensive player of the year in this league, that I wasn't quite sure I saw coming.
Well, of course, how much did the fan base hold their breath when the stories were going out there about Willie Fritz going to Georgia Tech? I mean,
I don't know what
if you'd have believed all the stories on Sunday, he was gone.
Yeah,
and of course, they promote Brent Key, a former UCF assistant, to the lead role there at Georgia Tech. But this is one of those things. The Power Five looks down at the G5, but boy, they don't mind poaching the coaches whenever they get the chance. Of course, you had to figure he was going to get some attention.
Yeah, I think there was a pretty loud collective exhale. We're recording this at 8 o'clock my time, so probably 6 hours ago, there was probably a deep exhale in the city with what happened in Atlanta. I mean, it's been a pretty tenuous 72 hours here. It's no shock that he was getting some interest. There were two jobs that I think were of concern to people here that might be interested in Coach Fritz. The first one was Kansas, because he's from there and he grew up around there, and not just in the state, but around that university. And once they extended Lance Leipold, that took one chip off the table. But Georgia Tech was always kind of sitting on the back of people's minds here ever since it opened back in September, because it fits the mold of what would be successful for Willie Fritz to be a part of, and frankly, vice versa. You think about his time that he had in Georgia when he was at Georgia Southern, was successful there in his quick stint, and then the recruiting hurdles at Georgia Tech are very similar to the ones he has here at Tulane. And so it made sense that they would eventually come calling. And yeah, Sunday, it certainly was, there was a little bit of concern around here that he might not be around even for this week. Obviously, that has not come to fruition. And there's always a purpose behind leaks, as I think we got a crash course in over the last 36 to 48 hours here in New Orleans. I was seeing the reaction initially from the Georgia Tech fan base about his name being flown out there, and then the top candidate as of Sunday night. And I don't know what's true or false. Willie Fritz isn't going to tell me anything about what was going on there. I mean, we all knew that the conversations were being had. But the reaction was not great to his name being flown around. And Brent Key did such a terrific job taking over there, where they wanted him to stay, and he is staying. But I think there's a misunderstanding still nationally of the job that Willie Fritz has done here, and how challenging just the role is. The fact that they're now number 18 in the poll and playing for a conference championship and a Cotton Bowl for this program is crazy. It's truly crazy when you think about just everything from this program over the last 3 decades. He's a brilliant coach. He's brilliant. I mean, and, aside from the guy in Fort Worth, he should be National Coach of the Year. I think he would have done a great job at Georgia Tech. That's not happening. And I know a lot of folks here are very, very happy that that's not, because if he's able to stick around into, even 2023, and this conference looks radically different, and Tulane maybe is able to leave this year as the top team in the American and then restructures next year, there's some opportunity here to not just make this a a one and done, but something that has some staying power. And that has not existed here in a long, long time.
And of course, you guys ran Luke Fickell out of Cincinnati.
that shocked me. I mean, when we were there on Friday, I mean, there was no rumblings from any of the people I was talking to about anything like that happening. And so that was a stunner, but it also shows, that there was something very surface level about what was on the line for that game. Winner hosts the title game, a loser likely didn't make the championship game. Now, UCF did everything they could to not make that the case against Florida. Wow, that was nuts. But
yes.
But I think we'd be having, we wouldn't be having this conversation had the result been different. But two, it's far more feasible that Willie Fritz isn't the coach here anymore if Tulane loses that game. I mean, it's the day and age right now of college football when we're talking about the transfer portal opening on Monday coming up on the 5th, when the early signing day is now the main signing day in college football. It seemed pretty clear that Georgia Tech wanted Willie Fritz in immediately. And, again, not talking to Coach Fritz or anybody about this specifically, but I think he wants to see this through to Saturday. And that will seem to be the hang up here from everything I've seen. And so if Tulane lost on Friday in Cincinnati, it is very likely that Willie Fritz isn't here anymore. And instead, Luke Fickell is no longer in Cincinnati. It is, even though Cincinnati is joining you guys here in the Big 12 next year, it is amazing how the domino effect occurs in this sport. And it's the folks in the middle and bottom that always wind up feeling the brunt of it here, where, this more than anybody here, Jeff. I remember watching, Scott Frost being interviewed after winning the conference title. You're going to Nebraska, right? And it's just, it happens every year with one school like this. And it was our turn this year. It's very, very rare that the coach that gets talked about sticks around. But it's also very rare for a coach to up and leave before a conference championship game. And it was clear that was not going to happen here. And if that was the thing that moved Georgia Tech on and had them look back inward, then so be it. I mean, it's we're fine with that here.
Speaks to his character, and if he's got that kind of commitment, shame on Georgia Tech for not respecting that if that was really a hang up for them. But the Fickell to Wisconsin thing intrigues me just because, I think he has a better chance with Cincinnati in the Big 12 than he does with Wisconsin in the Big 10 of getting to a playoff.
I would tend to agree. We're a couple days away to finding out if we're expanding to 12 here in the CFP. And so that might open things up for Wisconsin. What is, the Big 10 is a lot of eye candy, I would say right now at the very top, and a lot of middle, especially on that side of the Big 10 that Wisconsin is on. You're about to add USC and maybe UCLA, but no, I thought the avenue for far more sustained high-level success lies in the Big 12. And we'll see. I mean, it speaks to, despite the increase in money that UCF's about to get here in the Big 12 and Cincinnati's about to get and Houston's about to get, it's still a cavernous gulf to where the Big 10 is. And so Luke Fickell will have whatever he pleases in Madison, and they're going to let him do almost whatever he wants there. As someone who grew up in a Wisconsin household, I know how excited they are right now for the possibility of what might come there. It shows Wisconsin's not willing to settle for 8-9 wins a year anymore. But I thought Luke Fickell would be, could be back in the playoff in 2 years in the Big 12, and with where he's going now, might take a little bit longer.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Saturday. It's all on the line to go to the Cotton Bowl in the New Year's Six, and putting a trophy in the case. How do you think this one's going to play out? I would also add to that, UCF. It's hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah,
and on the road.
Yeah, I mean it's a very rare situation here that's panning out, in which we're hosting a team twice in a month, and it happens to be the team that knocked us around pretty good. And so I think the biggest question will lie on whomever's quarterbacking for UCF. That will tell the tale of a lot, and if it's Plumlee, how healthy he is, because he was the difference maker first meeting, and Tulane has had their troubles against running quarterbacks this year. Evan Prater was running the ball pretty well against them last Friday, and Cincinnati was clamoring for him to eventually be the starting quarterback. They saw glimpses of it. He also didn't throw the ball very well. Tulane has been much better against pure passers, and now Mikey Keene is not a pure passer per se. He runs. He probably runs in the same vein that Michael Pratt does, where they have the capability. It is not a default option, and they aren't blessed with the same level of speed as Plumlee is, but it can be a weapon. And so, what Tulane has done this year defensively against probably the best pure throwers in the league is why their defense has been so good. Clayton Tune at Houston, Tanner Mordecai at SMU, Holton Ahlers at East Carolina, like those guys were completely negated by this defense. A little bit of running ability causes them a little bit of problems. That's what happens when you play zone as much as this team does. So it could boil down to simply that. Like if it's Plumlee out there, Tulane has a lot of work cut out for them to make amends of what happened 3 weeks ago. If it's Keene out there, they're going to feel a little bit better about the scenario. That can they move the ball against a UCF front that I think they'll be able to throw it on them? They were able to a little bit in the first meeting, and Tajay did have, I think, 130 yards in that first meeting, but 70 came on one carry. And so the defensive line and the linebacking core for UCF is bigger and faster than Tulane's offensive line. And that was a problem a couple weeks ago. Can they move the ball enough on UCF's defense where the athletes are bigger, are faster, are better recruits, are ready for the Big 12? Like Willie Fritz was open about that earlier in the month. This is the most Big 12 ready roster he saw of the three that are moving out of this league. And we get to see him again. So the Tulane will maybe have to get craftier offensively to try and they do a lot of misdirection. They do throw a lot of eye candy in there. And against a team as talented as this one on the defensive side of the ball, they might have to work that a little bit more here. Who's going to win? I don't know. I mean, it's I can say that I think a lot of folks here are chomping at the bit that it's UCF coming in because they want another crack at this team. And in a season that has had many, many milestones for this program, this would be a pretty sweet one to check off here, to win a conference title for the first time in 24 years, to beat the one team that's already beaten you, and send UCF to the Big 12 with a loss. So I don't know. I really don't know. I think it should be a fun game, a very fun game.
Yeah, I will tell you this, having watched UCF since the last meeting, they've been struggling on defense, and obviously Navy does what they do, but the South Florida game, when they turned the ball over and made stupid penalties, they nearly paid a big price for that performance.
And I think about that first meeting here in New Orleans, and there weren't that many of those moments for UCF. They didn't have as many of the dumb penalties that they do fall victim to. I think about, there was a fumble overturned, and I think it was early second quarter of that game in New Orleans, where on review, I think a lot of people here wondered how that was overturned, and then UCF scored a touchdown later on that drive, and Tulane missed a pick in the red zone early in that game. Next play was a Bowser touchdown, and so there were a lot of things that didn't feel as though they were terribly breaking Tulane's way in that one either. But you also make your own breaks in this sport, and those were two good teams, and one of them was doing the smarter things and the more correct things to get some breaks falling. I remember fourth quarter, Plumlee bobbled just a run running to the right, but he was able to pin it onto a shoulder pad. Otherwise, that was going to be a fumble. It was little things like that you could feel mounting as the game went along. It's like something's not breaking right here for the Tulane Green Wave. And on top of that, UCF, frankly, is more talented. And so it never felt like it was going to be the day for the Green Wave. That being said, they lost by 7, and they had an onside kick to get back on the field and try and tie it in the last 2 minutes. And so they were never out of commission there of that game. I'm looking at the scoring summary now here, and I just got reminded of that 8-minute drive that UCF had to close out the game. Really, it's a Bowser touchdown. Yeah, and they were picking up. Like it was like 3rd and 4, and Bowser would get 4.5. Like it just enough to. It was a brilliant game-killing drive that UCF pulled off, and that was the 4th down. Bowser throwing to Plumlee, and the pass interference was called. That kept that one going on 4th and short, and that was the one where Plumlee fumbled as well on that drive. And so everything was being done correctly by UCF, and it was the mark of a team that understood what was on the line in that game, that is very well coached, that is extremely high talented, and they were doing every little thing they needed to do to get a road win like that. So until further notice, like, listen, Tulane has gone through Houston this year. They've gone through Cincinnati this year. They have exercised some demons on SMU, on Tulsa, on East Carolina. They've checked a lot of boxes. And there's one left here, and it happens to be UCF. And so in a year that has kind of rewritten a lot of the storybook of Tulane football, this isn't the final chapter this week. We know there's one more coming after this, but this would be one that I think a lot of people would be itching to fill out in a positive way.
Well, you've mentioned the milestones they've hit this year. Does losing this game detract any of that?
For me, it doesn't. That's something that I even talked about with my broadcast partner, Steve Barrios, prior to Friday's game. Like, even if they lost that game, like the fact that they were going to be at worst 9-3, the most wins that they have had in a year since 1998. I keep saying stuff like that to put it into context for people outside of here. It is what this year has been for Tulane, win or lose this weekend. But, I think I don't want to say we're looking at the rest of this as gravy, because I'm getting a little greedy now. I'd like to see what their world looks like on January 2nd. I won't lie. I've been around this program now for 2 years, and I saw them go through 2-10 last year, and they're 10-2 this year. And they have an opportunity to do something incredibly remarkable here on Saturday. I would love for this group to see this through to the end, and whether the end is in the Cotton Bowl, that would be something that I wouldn't have even fathomed heading into this year. If it ends in, the Birmingham Bowl or the Armed Forces Bowl or one of those locations there in late December, then that's the way it ends. But this year has been something truly special here. And so win or lose on Saturday, I'll be disappointed in the moment if UCF wins this game on Saturday. There's no way around that. And as I said, I'm around these guys all the time. But my God, what a year. And it is rejuvenated folks here. And it's been, gosh, Jeff, the 2005 Hurricane Katrina year, in many ways took out a generation of fans here. And so when you go to games here, it's students and it's people in the, 50s and up. There's a generation lost for Tulane fans here. And this group here has done nearly everything they can to bring people back. And so, it's been slightly bigger than just wins and losses for Tulane this year. There is a return of Tulane football to this city, and it's been a long time coming. So hopefully, maybe it gets capped off with just a truly special moment Saturday, and maybe it doesn't. But my God, what a ride this has been for this football program and the city that is welcome back into Uptown New Orleans.
And of course, Commissioner Mike Oresco has to be one proud commissioner. He's got, a top 25 matchup for his championship game. So he can't be disappointed in that for sure.
No, I mean, would the commissioner want one of the teams leaving his league after this year to win the title? I don't know.
Probably not.
I mean, listen, I think either way, he's going to get a team in the New Year's Six this year. I don't see anyone, if UCF wins, even with 3 losses, I don't see anyone like a UTSA or North Texas or a Troy or whatever jumping into the rankings and leaping them or anything like that. So he's going to get a team in the New Year's Six, regardless of what happens here on Saturday. So I definitely think he's probably thrilled with the idea that a team that has been so integral to this conference being more on the national forefront over the last, 8 years than any other group of 5 league against a team that is looking to carry the torch moving forward for this league. I'm sure he's thrilled about that, truly, because without what UCF has done here, and Houston before them and Cincinnati after them, even Memphis in the middle there with their run that they had, without what UCF pulled off a few years ago, that they're certainly not moving to the Big 12, and the American is not at the point where it's almost assured that whoever wins that league is playing in a Cotton Bowl or a Sugar Bowl or whatever the case might be. So, this is the last go here for UCF, and I know you all there are looking forward to the greener pastures to come in the Big 12, but I'm sure there's a little bit of let's make one more lasting mark on this league and win this conference again, a conference that we helped elevate to where it is now and where we hope to be this time next year. So I think it's a great matchup. I really do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the veterans of this league against the new kids on the block here of contending for this conference have to show us Saturday at 3:00 Central.
Well, besides the fact you're not only a terrific play-by-play guy, so the spoof you guys did on game day, opting not to come.
Yeah, that came out after we recorded the first.
Yes,
the first
correct. Yes,
I couldn't say anything about that when we recorded.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was. That idea had actually been cooked up for a few weeks. That was our head equipment director here, Gabe Delott. He asked me probably about a month prior to that, like, hey, we're thinking about trying to do a game day thing for a jersey reveal. Would you want to be Reese Davis? I said, yeah, sure. Sounds like fun. And then it turned into doing it in anticipation of maybe getting College Game Day here. Well, that didn't happen. Pretty publicly didn't happen. And for that UCF week, Gabe texted me in Tuesday. That's the day you and I recorded. Texted me and said, hey, can you be Reese Davis tomorrow at 2:00? And I was unsure because, we were pretty animated and not pleased with their decision to go to Austin over us that week. And I was like, you sure we're going to do this? Like, this is going to be seen at us going after them. And then he said, yeah, Troy Dannon, our athletic director, is going to be Kirk Herbstreit. And so once I found out that our athletic director was going to be in it and behind it all, I was like, oh, all right, we're doing it. let's have some fun. And it was truly, as we were making it, it only took about a half hour to actually do it all. Everyone nailed their lines. It was great. We had a couple of guys from equipment filling out the desk there. And as we were making it, I remember Troy staring at me and like, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good. It certainly caught traction. And I know Game Day mentioned it.
They gave you props for it.
Yeah. They did a feature on Nick Anderson on that show as kind of throw us a bone for not coming to us. And then they mentioned it that, did you see the swoop they did of us? I'll tell you what, the social media team here at Tulane, I give mad credit to Parker Peltier, who is the guy behind the football social that you mostly see here. He did the video of the jersey reveal, the Aaron Judge home run. cutting into it earlier in the year because the Houston game, our final drive of regulation, they showed Aaron Judge's quest for 62 side by side, and it completely reviled our fans here. And so, I mean, he's been brilliant with this stuff, and that one might be his nadir right there. So, it was a blast, and it fits. I think it fits what this team has been this year, where it's people have really taken to them, and the players and the people and the personalities and stuff like that has certainly garnered a lot of goodwill and laughter towards this program as well. And it's been great to see, especially with where we were at this time a year ago.
Hey, and ultimately winning's fun, so you might as well enjoy it, right?
Yeah. I mean, when push comes to shove, this is the toy section of a department store. Like, make the toy section great, but let's have fun while we're in it. So, I mean, it's that the city's taken to this team, the nation's taken to this program with some of the things that we've done here. It's been crazy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, you have to tell me, are you going to, during the course of basketball season, find some of the worst seats in arenas again this year?
We just had our first road trip, quote unquote, of the season last week. We were in Grand Cayman. And we're cooking up whether or not we want to bring that back as that, or if we want to do something else in similar vein. I mean, that did strike a bit of fire last year as well. And that just kind of came out of the blue, like, hey, let's do something up here in this terrible seat in Wichita. And then I found one at the arena on UCF's campus at Addition Financial. I know that CFU is the old name, but
yes.
And I remember vividly that the USF fans loved that, but I also knew what their arena had in store. So then I remember doing that one, and that one caught some fire. And I know UCF fans enjoyed that immensely. So I don't know. We'll see if we want to kind of go down the same path and maybe risk ruining what was a pretty flash in the pan thing last year. If we want to try and tweak it, we'll see. We're cooking something up. Our first real road trip's not till conference play, so we do have some time here. We'll stay tuned. We're working on something here.
Yeah, when you were in Grand Cayman, was that one of those ballroom?
It was a high school gym. It was a high school. It wasn't the ballroom.
Because I like to call this the ballroom season in college basketball.
Yes, it was a high school gym that during our first game, the power went out twice. So we didn't play great. It was, aside from the scenery, it was not our best showing. But as opposed to last year, we were in a ballroom in the Bahamas and it started raining on us. So we had a 4-hour rain delay in a game last year during a basketball tournament. So we might just need to avoid the tropics starting next year to like men's basketball. Let's go to like Maine or something. We'll see.
Well, outstanding as always, Corey. I really appreciate you being on the show. I hope you have a great broadcast on Saturday. Should be a terrific game. And again, we thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you again, Jeff. It's great to talk to you again so soon. Hopefully there's some basketball and even some baseball chats before you guys book on out here, because I've enjoyed every time I've joined you here. And I mean, twice in a month, man, it is the holiday season, isn't it?
It sure is. It sure is. And yeah, we'll be down for some hoop talk before long for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Number 18, Tulane, and number 22, UCF in the AAC Championship game is a 4 o'clock kick Saturday on ABC. The Offensive Player of the Week, as we discussed, Tyjae Spears, the Tulane running back, was big in their win over Cincinnati to earn that AAC Championship game berth and hosting opportunity. 181 yards and 2 touchdowns and 35 carries. It was his 6th consecutive 100-yard gain, and he surpassed the 1,000-yard mark for the season with 1,177. The Defensive Player of the Week, Brandon Crossley of SMU, made the big key defensive play as he preserved the Mustangs' 34-31 win against Memphis as he intercepted a pass in the end zone with 2 seconds left, and the Tigers threatening at the Mustang 9-yard line. The Special Teams Player of the Week is Cy Hatfield of East Carolina. He finished with a career-high 174 all-purpose yards in their win East Carolina beating Temple 49-46, including a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He also had 2 receptions for 34 yards. In some national award news, Cincinnati senior linebacker Ivan Pace Jr. was named one of 3 finalists on Tuesday for the Chuck Bednarik Award. That's given to the nation's top defensive player. The winner of that award will be announced on the 32nd Annual Home Depot College Football Awards, December 8th from 7 to 9 p.m. on ESPN. His teammate, sophomore punter Mason Fletcher, a native of Melbourne, Australia, was announced on Tuesday as one of 3 finalists for the Ray Guy Award, given annually to college football's top punter. Coming up next, we'll talk about the Women's Volleyball Championship and Houston, number 1 in men's basketball. That's coming up next on the AAC Report.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Nightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up the menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Houston and UCF both earned number 5 seeds in the 2022 NCAA Division I Women's Volleyball Championship. That, of course, was doled out the selections on Sunday night during the selection show on ESPNU. Houston at 20-3 was the 2022 AAC automatic qualifier. They picked up the number 5 seed and will travel to Omaha, Nebraska to take on South Dakota in the first round on Friday at 4:30 Eastern. The winner will face the winner of the number 4 Creighton versus Auburn match, which takes place the day prior. The Cougs won a program record 20 straight matches this year en route to a 19-1 conference record. It marks the first time since 2000 that Houston has made it to the NCAA tournament. UCF, 27-1 on the season. They share the conference title with Houston by defeating the Cougs last Friday. They picked up the number 5 seed in the tournament and will travel to State College, Pennsylvania to take on Yale in the first round. That'll be Friday at 5:30 Eastern Time. The winner will face the winner of the number 4 seed Penn State and UMBC matchup, which takes place on Saturday, 6:30 Eastern Time. This is the Knights' 13th all-time NCAA tournament berth, and they have won 15 straight matches while posting a 19-1 record in conference play, and you should be able to catch all that action on women's volleyball on ESPN+. The Offensive Player of the Week, well, it's no surprise. Once again, McKenna Melville of UCF, as again, she helped the Knights claim a share of the American Championship. A 2-0 week for the Knights, averaged nearly 7 points per set and 6.5 kills per set while hitting .221 of the week. She becomes the 10th player in NCAA Division I history to reach 2,500 career kills. The Defensive Player of the Week, Morgan Stout of Wichita State, finished the week with 1.78 blocks per set as the Shockers defeated SMU and Memphis on the road. She had 10 blocks against the Mustangs and added 6 more against the Tigers. And she also added 1.89 kills per set for Wichita State. In the season awards, it's a series of repeat winners again this season, as McKenna Melville of UCF earned her 3rd straight American Player of the Year honor. Houston libero Kate Georgiadis repeated as the American Libero of the Year, and UCF's Amber Olson won her 2nd consecutive American Setter of the Year. East Carolina's Angelis Alderete took home the American Freshman of the Year. Houston's David Rare took the American Coach of the Year honors. The all-conference team from UCF, Claudia Dillon, Abby Hansen, McKenna Melville, and Amber Olson. From Houston, Kate Georgiadis, Abby Jackson, and Isabel Thiet. From SMU, Mariki Vandermark and Jamison Wheeler. From Tulsa, Kaylee Cassidy, Natalie Foster from Wichita State, along with her Shockers teammate Briley Kelly. Second team all-conference, Kari Zumak of UCF, Carly Glendenning of Cincinnati, along with her teammate Abby Walker, Angelis Alderete of East Carolina, Rachel Tullis of Houston, Bailey Houlihan of Memphis, Celia Cullen of SMU, and Sophia Rolling of Wichita State. Turning to basketball, Houston has been voted the number 1 team in the nation in the latest AP Top 25 and USA Today Coaches Poll. The Cougars received 45 first-place votes in the AP Top 25 and 23 in the Coaches Poll. Texas, by the way, is ranked number 2 in those polls. It is the first time an AAC men's basketball team is ranked number 1 in the AP Top 25. It is the first time a team from the American has been in the top spot in the Coaches Poll during the regular season. UConn was ranked number 1 in the final Coaches Poll after winning the 2014 NCAA Championship. And for Houston, first time atop the poll since the days of Phi Slamma Jamma back in 1983. That group, of course, led by Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. The player of the week is Kendrick Davis of Memphis. He led the Tigers to 2 wins at the ESPN Events Invitational in Orlando, averaging 19 points, 5.3 assists, and 2.3 steals in 3 games. The freshman of the week, Taylor Hendricks of UCF, averaged 12.7 rebounds and 2 blocks in a pair of games for the Knights last week. In women's hoops, Jane Asciende of Wichita State is the player of the week, averaging 21 points, 17 rebounds in wins over Montana and Loyola Marymount. And the freshman of the week was Carla Brito of South Florida. That's her 3rd straight honor for the season, as she averaged 11.5 points per game for the Bulls. And against New Hampshire, she scored a career high 26 points while matching her career high with 10 rebounds. And that's going to do it for this week's show. As always, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88. And you can follow the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. Enjoy the football championship game this Saturday between the Knights and the Green Wave. You've been listening to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.